me say the Mama Podcast.
Mama Podcast.
Hi Mama, you're listening to the Mama Podcast. It's Sumaya here, the co-founder of Mama Emmy app. Mama Emmy is the first app to exclusively connect mothers across the Middle East, connect with like-minded mamas and create lifelong friendships. At Mama, we are all about connecting mamas to empower women. So let's join together and make this mission a reality.
This week, we're talking all about self-love and confidence. I'm joined by Aliya, who's a coach and specializes in this area. We talk all about mum guilt, comparison, and how to find a few minutes of peace to help grow our confidence. Let's get stuck right in.
Aliya, thank you so much for joining me on the Mama Podcast. I'm really, really excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited as well.
So it'd be great if we start off with your journey and just a little bit about how you got to becoming a coach, and then we'll dig into why you sort of decided to specialize in confidence and self-love.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So my background is quite different to what I do now. So initially, I studied biomedical science at university, and then I went on to do my master's in public health. And that was, I was really interested in public health at that time, and I really had a passion for it. And I worked in that sector. So I worked at Public Health England. I was one of the managers for the National Antimicrobial Resistance Program. So I had I moved up quite quickly at a young age, had a lot of responsibility, which was just awesome. Worked at a startup, worked at a charity. But honestly, for me, it sounds really cliche, it sounds quite cheesy, but it's the reality of, I was in this, had a great role, but I just kind of thought, as much as I loved it, I felt like I wasn't making the difference, making the impact that I wanted to be having on a daily basis. So, I knew that somewhere down the line, people were, benefiting from my work, but I wanted to do something a lot more meaningful where I could, see a difference every day. So I really kind of, dug into, what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in. And I also kind of asked myself the question of where do I want to be in, 5-10 years time? And, sitting in this office, I was like, do I want to still be here in 5-10 years? Do I want to just work my way up the ladder? And I just thought, no, like the answer that came to me was no. Like, I want to I just want to do so much more. And so I just kind of sort of like thought about what am I interested in, what are my strengths, and I've always been very interested in psychology and human behavior just for myself. It wasn't something I studied, but it's something I read a lot about. And then I came across coaching actually. So I just kind of came across it online, and there was a course that came up, like a trial day. So I went and attended it, and I was like, oh wow, this is what I want to do. So I signed up to the program, and I did my NLP training as well. So I'm an NLP practitioner as well. And then I decided, this is something that I want to, do more of. And that's how it started, really.
That's so exciting. I really resonate with that, because I think that's the kind of conversation I had with myself in my head, that do I want to do this when I'm 50 years old? Like as a dentist, do I want to be in a dental practice doing what I'm doing right now every single day when I'm 50? And the answer was no. So it's really interesting that you actually had the same kind of experience.
Yeah, it's a powerful question to ask yourself, for sure.
When you decided that actually this is the new route that you want to go down into, surely it wasn't as easy as, hey, I want to do this, right, I'm going to quit my job. And then there must have been some level of self-doubt, and like you must have questioned your own confidence in that, right?
100%. 100%. I mean, it was just an idea that I had at the time. I mean, I think looking back, it wasn't something I really planned to do. I wasn't like, right, I'm going to start my own business in this, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Not at all. It was, I started enjoying the course. I started the training, and then I started, coaching clients as well. And I started enjoying that. And I was like, oh, hey, this is cool. I'm getting really positive feedback. And then at the time, I actually decided to work with a coach as well, because I think it's really, important as a coach to have a coach to help you to achieve your goals and get out of your comfort zone. So I started working with a coach, and it was through working with a coach that he asked me these questions and got me to, think big, and got me to really think about what I wanted to do with this. And I was like, oh, wow, I've never really thought about this before. And so from then, having those kind of conversations, it enabled me to start dreaming big and thinking about what I could do. And so So what I did was, I was still working full time. I was doing my training on the weekends and I was seeing clients in the evening. So I was really kind of building it up, for a while. So I did that, for almost around 6 months. And then I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I just had it in me where I was like, you know what, I just want to take 6 months out. I just want to go in full in for 6 months and just see. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. And I can always go back to my career, but I kind of got to the point where I said, let me just try it. So that's when I decided to sort of go all in at that point and kind of see where it goes from there. But yeah, it definitely hasn't been an easy road for sure.
Do you still have a coach?
I do, yeah. So I have a coach that I work with, definitely. I think it's just important because, we do have blind spots. We have blind spots. And I think it's important, I am someone who likes to challenge myself as well. And, I think the more when you start to challenge yourself and, I think it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a coach, but I still have times where my confidence dips or I'm like, oh, can I do that? Or, I try to play it safe. So I think having a coach really just helps me to kind of, push a little bit and say, oh, maybe I can do that as well and help me to see those blind spots.
So is it that a coach sort of, they don't just motivate you, right? They kind of give you tools to achieve your goals. Is that right?
So as a coach, for me, it's really, it's different for every person. And so it isn't that I, sit there and give advice to someone. It's really about asking powerful questions.
Okay.
So when I'm with my clients, I work with women and help them to build their confidence and, love themselves more. And so for each woman, when they come to me, it's really about finding out, what's going on for them right now, really digging in for them. Because, if it was just about giving tips and advice, everyone could do that, right? We just go on Google and be like, okay, here's some, tips. But it's about identifying for each person, like, okay, what's going on for you right now? What's holding you back right now? What's going on inside your mind? So a coach really helps you to, ask the questions that you don't necessarily ask yourself, and then, guides you along and taking those first few steps.
That's really interesting. And what made you get into confidence and self-love as a category within sort of coaching?
So I think part of it was my own journey as well. So when I started my career, my confidence wasn't so great. I didn't really think I could do much. I knew that I had the knowledge and the skills, but putting myself out there was definitely a no-no. But I was lucky in the sense that I had managers at work that actually believed in me and they saw my potential. And so what they did from early on is they started to like give me that little push. And for example, there was a time where there was a conference that came up and I had to speak in front of like 200 people, and my boss was like, right, okay, you're going to speak at this national conference. And I was like, no, I'm not. She was like, yes, you absolutely can. And she was like, no. I was like, no, I'm not. So it happened a few times in my career. And, they kind of gave me those sort of pep talks in a way to say, you can do this. You can do what you put your mind to. And so after kind of following their guidance and starting to do that, my confidence really, really, grew massively. And it helped me to realize that, it's all within me. All the tools are in with me. It's just having that, sometimes we can't see within ourselves. Yeah. Sometimes we just do need someone to see something within ourselves that we can't see. And so from having that, having people help me with that, I basically was like, wow, I would love to be able to do the same for other women. So I really help women to, bring out what's inside of them, bring out that fire that's within them and, help them to take those steps as well.
It must be so exciting to have a woman, you see her potential through a conversation with them, and then you could really sort of ignite that fire. That must be so rewarding for you.
It is really lovely because you can see a lot of the time it's like itching to get out. There's so much, but they're just like, ooh. But once you give them that push, that little kind of gentle push, then they're just like, they just go for it and do amazing things, and a lot of them, like they say, like, I'm a leader inside, or like, there's so much I can do. And it's just kind of, it's really lovely. It's really rewarding. And the thing is as well, one of the reasons as well for why I specialize in this area is because I think there's so much emphasis now on the skills that you have and the knowledge. And yes, you go to a good uni, you have a degree and you have the skills. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the confidence alongside that, then you're going to always hold yourself back. You know, having all the knowledge and the skills, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll move upwards and you'll move ahead. So if you don't have the self-belief, you'll always be, you know, kind of missing out on opportunities and yeah, kind of holding back.
Yeah, being able to put yourself forward for things is so important, not just like in your career, but in life as well, right? Like being aware of the opportunities that are coming like in front of you and being able to like grab them with both hands. Do you know, I mean, I don't know if there is a study or if there's information out there, but is there information as to why women struggle with confidence more than men do?
Yeah, there's a few reasons. I think, by the way, there's this really interesting study. I don't know if you've heard of this stat. It's by HP, and they found that when it came to applying for a job, men, you've heard of this, men applied when they met 60% of the criteria, whereas women applied when they met 100% of the criteria. And you know, that's just huge, and that just shows that it's not necessarily a difference in competency and being good enough for the job, but it's about the confidence. So they just didn't believe that they, you know, didn't have that confidence to put themselves out there and say, hey, I can, you know, potentially go for this. You know, one of the reasons is, you know, upbringing for sure. You know, the difference in upbringing, you know, with boys and girls. You know, girls are, and again, I know times are changing, which is really great. But it's just like, you know, boys kind of in school, kind of, you know, being a bit more boisterous. I think boys kind of saying things and being more blunt than boys, and obviously being softer to girls. So there's all of that as well. I think also with beauty standards as well, you know, that plays a huge part in our confidence, and, you know, unrealistic expectations of how we should look and what we should do and the different roles we should play in our lives. So yeah, I'd say a number of factors play a part.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think people are more aware of these changes or these the impact that this can have on sort of younger children, and I'm hoping that as the new generation grows, that we'll see less of that sort of between the two genders, because it is something that as a parent I'm a lot more conscious of as well, to know that, you know, you're not categorizing a person because of their gender. So I have a daughter and I don't want to categorize her into like doing things that girls do. So, you know, it's okay to play with dolls, but it's also okay to play with trains and cars and dinosaurs. You know, it's not, things aren't gender based, and they shouldn't be gender based, because we should allow them to flourish in what they do well. And I think it is something that's becoming more and more talked about. So hopefully as time goes on, that will be something that will sort of stabilize and settle in years to come, but it is something that we still deal with right now. Just bringing it into sort of motherhood and parenting, it's really common for women to lose a lot of their confidence after they become moms, just because, like, I don't really know what the reason is, and I guess it's probably different from person to person why they lose confidence, but it's such a big transition. So going from like not having any responsibilities and not having someone to look after to then going to work every day, having your own sort of outlet, to going from that to then having responsibility, having a child, doing everything around their routine, etc., has a big impact on your confidence. And I know you work with women in general, so you work with moms and women. Is there anything that we can do to sort of pick ourselves up in terms of confidence? Are there any set, like one or two things that we can do to just sort of work on our confidence after having a child?
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's a transition, isn't it? And it's going from one place of, like you said, having the time, having the flexibility, doing what you do, and then suddenly there's, you know, a baby, and there's, you know, life has completely changed. So it's really having that that period of adjustment. And I think really it's about starting there as well. It's actually, you know, kind of having that kind of faith in yourself that you will get through it. You know, that's just kind of as a start. But I would say really it's about small steps. Because I think, especially as women as well, what we can end up doing is putting so much pressure on ourselves, you know, feeling like it's very all or nothing. Like, I've either got to be the best, or it's going to be like this, or just forget it. And so, you know, really it's about, you know, taking small steps every day. And I know, for example, you know, a lot of mums, you know, I know the challenge is time, right? Like, you're really strapped for time, and it's very difficult. So I'd say one thing is, you know, start really, really small. think about if you have like pockets of 5 minutes in your day, just 5 minutes throughout the day where you can do something that's just for you, that, kind of picks you up. So I talk a lot about morning routine, and the power of starting your day off intentionally, positively, and it really helps to build your confidence as well, doing a few things in the morning. So again, what comes up from mums is, well, I don't have time in the morning, my kid rushes in, I don't have a time where I can start the day. So what I'd say there is, even if it's just as small as little 5 minutes where you do something every morning, just to be really intentional about having, a good day ahead. And that could be, for example, giving yourself a little pep talk, doing some breathing, giving yourself a pep talk in the mirror, like, you know what, today is a good day, I've got this, saying some kind words to yourself, like, hey, I've got this, I'm going to do, great today. I'm feeling positive, I'm feeling great. Something like that. Or maybe it's a bit of breathing, maybe it's a bit of gratitude as well. I think starting the day off with gratitude is really, really powerful, and throughout the day as well, just, boosts your mood. So I just say that's like the first thing I'd say is just kind of it doesn't have to be like an hour or 2 hours. Just think about how you can do things for like 5-10 minutes in the day for yourself.
And then I guess as the child grows, they become a little bit more independent. And so you can find slightly longer pockets of time to sort of focus on. It's really interesting. You mentioned that you should just have a morning routine. And I think just speaking from a mom perspective, when they're really young, that can be quite challenging because often you've had a really sleepless night. So, you try and catch all the sleep that you can. So you might sleep till the point that the baby wakes up. But what I found really helped for me was when they're quite young, especially when they're sort of 5-6 months old, in that sort of early 6 months, they sleep a lot. So often they go down for their first nap really early in the morning, and my daughter would sleep around 8:30, 9 o'clock. So at that time, I would it didn't matter what else needed to be done for the day. I would dedicate that sort of 15-20 minutes to going in for a shower, getting dressed, combing my hair, the basic things that you normally would have taken for granted before you had a child, because, you don't have time for those things, but really making time. So just prioritizing that.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you did that. And like you said, it's about prioritizing as well, isn't it? There's probably always 100 things to be done, but you're like, yes, the other things can just wait for now. But those 10-15 minutes will make, did you find that they made a big difference to your day?
Absolutely. You just go from feeling disheveled and tired to just feeling so much fresher and right, I can start my day now. I've got this, having that 10 minutes made me so much happier. And if I could have, it didn't matter if the dishes weren't done.
Yeah. And I'm sure that had an impact on the people around you as well. For your baby, for your husband, other family members or friends around you, you just felt, calmer as well. It's everything you did as a result following on from that. You did from a better place than if you were still, like you said, kind of rolled out of bed, you hadn't showered, your hair was a mess, you're just kind of scraping throughout the day. So it's just 10 minutes for you, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's my one piece of advice that I say to every single pregnant woman that's due to give birth. Just 10 minutes. And the first 6 months are challenging because that transition it varies from person to person, but for some people it can be quite challenging. And so it does get easier in the sense that you'll have a little bit more time as they get a bit older. But in those first 6 months, you could really it's quite easy to just let yourself go. 6 months later, find yourself in this position where you've lost all your confidence and you feel like a completely different person because you're really not focused on yourself at all.
Yeah. Sure. And that's why I talk a lot about, creating a lifestyle as well. And so it's, instead of, and of course I empathize with the fact that, of course, when you have a baby, things are completely out of, completely flipped upside down. But again, it doesn't need to take a lot of time, even if it's things that you do for 5 minutes in your day that help you to just feel good about yourself. Like you said, rather than feeling, I'm going to exert myself and do everything that needs to be done, whether it's the dishes or this or that. I'm just going to say, no, that's okay. It can wait. Something like that. I look at that as an act of self-love. That's an act of self-love because you're like, I'm just going to prioritize me right now. And it's small things like this throughout the day that really, are acts of kindness towards yourself. So it's not about thinking about the big thing where I'm going to get to a point where I've completely, like you said, let myself go and I'm just exhausted and burnt out. If you can just take 5 to 10 minutes throughout the day, it can make such a big difference.
I think that's, yeah, it's a really good way of looking at it, because I think just the thought of like all this stuff that needs to be done, and also I now need to add time for self-love, it could feel quite overwhelming. I can imagine if you're not used to doing it, it can feel quite overwhelming.
And that's why I think of, thinking of the boring things as self-love, right? So it doesn't need to be like, right, okay, now I'm gonna practice self-love, I don't have time. No, it can be, you know what, now I'm just gonna pause for 5 minutes. That's self-love. It's just doing, the little things.
Yeah, or have a cup of tea and actually spend time just drinking the tea, and or like whatever, like just little things. I'm sure, I think when we look at it that way, there's so many little nuggets of time that we could probably find.
Yeah, I mean, even just practicing mindfulness, like with whatever you're doing as well. Let's say you have got that 5 minutes to drink a cup of tea, like you said, just being fully present in that cup of tea, enjoying that cup of tea or coffee, and like that's it. Being mindful as well, and that'll help you to feel so much calmer as well throughout the day.
Yeah, and it's so much better for the children, right? Like being a happier you is better, because they really do feed off your energy. So it's great to be a more energetic, happier, positive person. And it's not the same every single day, because some days are really challenging as a mom. But as much as we can do, we should try and do. I feel. Let's talk about comparison. So it's quite easy to compare yourself to other moms and things that you see on social media, and other moms posting things on social media. Do you have a take on that? Because that takes away from your self-love, surely, because you're comparing yourself to somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, with social media as well, it's just so, easy to see all the other people, all the other mums who have just like, wow, okay, they're flowing like through life, they look amazing, they're in shape, they're this, they're that, how are they doing it all? And I think that with anything, whether you're a mum or not, social media really can have that impact. And I think it's just really I'd say a few things with comparison. First of all, if we are talking about social media, or even not social media, people show you, what they want to show you at the end of the day. So just because someone looks like they have it all together and everything is fine and they're happy, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So I think it's just kind of having that awareness, first of all, is like, it's just a snapshot of their day. That's not necessarily the true reality. And then, I mean, how often do, we post pictures of us where we haven't had any sleep, or you as a mom, you haven't had any sleep, you're crying from being stressed, you've got food everywhere. I mean, you don't really post pictures of that, right? So it's like with anything, it's a snapshot. And I think, just because I think it's, when it comes to other people as well, it's like, they might seem like they have it all figured out now and everything's good for them now, but maybe it's likely that it wasn't always like that for that person. I think we're all on our own journey, and I think if we compare ourselves to others, then it's going to completely strip us of building our confidence, of self-love as well. I always feel like we're not good enough, and I think it's just knowing that we're on our own journey, on our own timeline. And if anything, I think you can look to these people and think, okay, cool, well, what can I learn from them? Because there's always two ways. We can either look at other people and, feel bad about ourselves if we think that they're doing better than us, or we can, take a proactive approach and be like, okay, cool, well, what's working for them? What can I learn and implement into my life as well? So I think taking that perspective just helps to build your confidence as well, rather than kind of beating yourself up.
So I love that. So taking it as inspiration rather than taking it as they're better than me.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that. You're doing something really incredible right now. You're working on you're working with a group of women in the Women Who Flourish, which I think is really like amazing. So there's a group of women that are together, all like-minded, and I'm assuming they can all bounce off each other as well, but there's tons of learning for them and growth as well. If this was a mom that's interested, would it fit into a mom's schedule? Would it be something that they could do?
For sure. So we have a few mums that are joining. It's the launch week this week, and I've really created it based on a lot of feedback, and the fact that a lot of women are mums. This feedback does come up of, well, I don't have a lot of time, I don't think I can commit to it very much right now. And so I created it in a way that can be very flexible as well, with their time. And so it's a program. So we have a group session, once a month at the end of every month. And really that's about kind of, delving into the month. I think it's nice to kind of keep track and see where we are. I think it's really great for confidence. Like, okay, what went well for us this month? What have I learned? How have I grown? What have I found challenging? And being able to talk about that with other women as well. What can I learn from that? And sort of setting intentions for the month ahead. So that's really, it's just once a month. And then at the same time, you can dip into like the Facebook group. There'll be some like challenges in there, live Q&As, recorded sessions. And again, that's for you to do in your own time. So I've created it to be, in a very flexible way.
That's amazing. And if our listeners want to find you, where's the best place to find you?
Yep, so you can find me on Instagram. So it's Coach_Aliya, Aliya. And you can find me on Facebook as well, Aliya Raja.
That's amazing. I'll link all of your details in the show notes so the listeners will be able to find you quite easily.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure the listeners will learn something from what we've talked about.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me, Sumaya. It's been lovely.